Hello, this is Cuckoo. I'm here at Super Booth 2024, and I'm here with Luna from Pittsburgh Modular, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here to see this in person, and also, moreover, to be talking to one of the lead developers of the actual machine.
Yeah, we're super happy to be here, super excited to be demoing this synthesizer. This is my first commercial release, and I'm really proud of it.
Cool, yeah, let's hear it. I'm super excited to see that there is supposedly a very robust and deep sequencer on it.
Yeah, so I'm an IDM producer, so I do weird generative stuff with rhythm in my own time. And I really wanted to try and put together a sequencer that was usable for more like traditional 16-step sort of things, but also gives you the opportunity to go deep and get really weird with it.
Cool, yeah, show me.
Yeah, great. So this is the touch controller. It's kind of best to think of this as sort of fundamentally two sequencers under the same hood. So there's the red channel up top here, which uses all of the red channel outputs. There's the yellow channel, uses all of the yellow channel outputs. They share a clock. They can have different MIDI channels. There's a lot that can be separated between them for polymetric stuff, polyclock stuff. Yeah, and they can be used either as a sort of touch interface, as they're set up right now, or they can be used as kind of a 16-step sequencer, sort of. We're going to get into this, but with a lot of the features, you can take them to really sort of infinite length. But kind of foundationally looking at it, it is sort of 16 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just, one of my favorite ways to use it generally is kind of, I like to patch up a two voice and use two sequencers to kind of create this set of two voice harmonies.
Yeah, and by the way, I forgot to name the name of the actual synth we use.
Yeah, this is the Voltage Lab 2. Yeah, it's the successor to the Voltage Research Laboratory, which synth that kind of put us on the map.
Yeah. Please continue.
Okay. Yeah, so you can, I've put the red channel in sequencer mode. In the knob mode, so I'll be reading the knobs for my pitches. And I'll just put together something real quick. Yeah, so I can have a sequencer running at the same time that I'm playing. Both of these channels generate both a quantized pitch output and an unquantized CB output. We can set the key per channel, so if you like the idea of major on minor counter harmonies or chromatic on major harmonies, jazzier stuff, you have access to that.
Cool. So now it's in some sort of key?
Yeah, so I have one in C major, one in C chromatic, which, you know, if you're into it.
So right now it's just a couple of notes playing and nothing else?
Yeah, so I have control over the sequence length if I want to, set it lower, which I'll do for now. We have, if you want to generate quite a bit longer sequences, you can jump around. And we have a kind of an underlying system similar to the conditions in electron gear.
Oh, cool.
So you can set a percentage chance of jumping. Yeah.
Between the steps?
Yeah, so right now I'm set up to jump one every 4 times.
Oh, cool.
It'll jump back every once in a while.
So what can you do to each step? Can you like parameter spice it up on every step?
So each step is going to have rolls, which allow me to kind of generate these timed ratchets, which gives access to kind of sub-steps. You can also, per step, move them off of center if you want to generate your own sort of kind of swingy vibes.
And I see like a huge amount of outputs, and what can you actually get from the sequencer?
Yeah, so out of the sequencer you get triggers, quantized pitch, a unquantized CV output from the knob, pressure, which is per step assignable, or if you're playing live pressure. And then we have the CV channel here. So the CV channel is controlled by these blue knobs, and it's shared per sequencer channel. So each step is going to have the same CV value per channel. The CV channel generates a gate with a length that is determined by the position of the knobs. It generates an envelope, again, controlled by the length controlled by the position of the knobs, just a decay envelope, and then an unquantized CV output. And so that's another way that you can kind of generate these unquantized CVs for modulating all of your signals. There's a load of interesting modulation options here. Because you can patch that CV to other places, you can do sort of timed generative sequencing sorts of things. So we have a whole host of like randomness tools in this sequencer. So we have
Cool. Hit me with some random stuff.
Yeah. So we have a pitch randomness algorithm. It's pretty opinionated. When I think about randomness algorithms, I'm really less interested in completely random note generation. I want them to more take you further and further out of the sort of tonalities that you expect as you move up in randomness than just become like more random notes. And so in the lower ranges of the knob, you get access to thirds and fifths and octaves, these really well-tempered sort of pitches. And as you go up, you start to get access to like fourths, minor thirds, sevenths, ninths.
Like natural tonality of a trumpet or something.
Yeah, so I'm a classically trained musician. I'm a trombonist. So
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot about like partial widths and the sort of different note interactions that you get there.
Cool. I came close. Trumpet, not too far away.
Very close, yeah. Yeah, and so I wanted to kind of take some of those sensibilities and apply them to random in a way that leaves it open to the user to get access to really strange, random feeling things, but that also encourages the generation to kind of lead you towards something that you'll like.
Yeah, cool. But how about you just try and create a bit of a complex patch, a musical patch, and see where it leads you. And you don't have to talk as much if you don't want to, but if there is something you want to point out, please do.
Yeah.
sick.
It gets really hard after a full day at Superbooth to continue coming up with good music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I managed to demonstrate that there's really quite a lot of depth of ways in which you can manipulate this particular sequencer.
Yeah, super cool. And right now we're ended up in some sort of sound here, and I feel someone told me that Pittsburgh is like one of the few manufacturers that actually create your own oscillator technology.
Right. Yeah.
And I can feel it.
Yeah. So our engineer Michael Johnson's been working really hard on this this pair of oscillators for about 5 years now. We've developed some new wave shaping techniques that really truly are new to synthesis. So I'm just going to walk you through our two oscillators.
Yeah, please do.
So right now we're listening to Laboratory Oscillator 1 here. This is a more aggressive, kind of traditional West Coasty sort of oscillator, but with some new tricks that people haven't seen before. So we have normal wave folding sort of stuff. But we also have access to this warp circuit, which is a 90-degree phase shift, which particularly with saw waves sounds really, really great. But also enables us to fold square waves, which was not possible before.
Oh, cool.
Also, we've come up with a new technique for shifting waves called center clipping. And so when we clip sounds, we're used to clipping from the top and bottom to create a sort of distortion tone. Center clipping clips from the middle out.
Wow.
And so you can see we're kind of like eating up the top half of the wave, top half of this sine wave right now. Or we can go in the other direction, clip down, both at the same time. One of the challenges here is that you can see we're starting to lose amplitude. So if we turn on our automatic gain control, this is kind of a dirty circuit that gives us back our amplitude, but also introduces quite a lot of color to the waveform.
Wow, that's cool.
And this can be sort of a subtle effect, but it really changes a lot about how the signal hits the wave folder. So if I take these off,
almost like an FM synthesis.
Almost, yeah. This does do FM synthesis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But you can hear
nice
center clipping. It totally changes how that hits the oscillator, how it hits the wave folder. Yeah, we also have a focus control, which you'll have to ask Michael about. I know these things more like musically.
Yeah.
Because I'm mostly a coder. I know how they feel to play.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, how a lot of people are going to interact with this. Oscillator 1 can be really aggressive, really otherworldly. Kind of lives in this space of being really drastic changes that you can create in your tone.
Yeah.
And then we have Oscillator 2 here. Oscillator 2 is a more, I think maybe a more subtle oscillator. Yeah, so Oscillator 1 has this reflection circuit.
Oscillator 2?
Oscillator 2, yeah, has a reflection circuit, which will take the bottom half of the wave and fold it up towards the top. This is kind of a more subtle form of waveforming that we're using. What it does is it reinforces the fundamental while bringing your pitch up in octave for some of the waveforms. With the sine and triangle, it will do that. And it is just a really subtle way of kind of removing that lower fundamental and reinforcing the upper fundamental. And you get this really interesting kind of panning feeling between those two sorts of pitches as that lower fundamental disappears.
I think like just by listening to it, a common theme of all the sounds coming from Pittsburgh is there is a certain body to it, a creaminess body. Yeah, you could get aggressive and raspy and like, yeah, but there is something about it. Just it takes a presence, it just stands there fundamentally. I like it.
Yeah, we like to say that we can't just be out here saying that analog's better because analog's better.
No.
We need to show people that it is better. And so we really do. We chase those sorts of tones that can only really exist in an analog space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can feel it. I appreciate this.
Yeah, so that's our reflection circuit. And then this oscillator does really quite a lot with square waves. So you have your standard pulse width control that everybody's used to. But we also have pulse symmetry, which introduces the second step into the oscillator. Totally changes the feel of the pulse width experience. Of it's just
Nice.
a lot grittier, a lot fatter. And also, this means that this square wave can be folded in more interesting ways. It gives us a totally different interaction with
Wow.
the wave folder. And one of the things that I love about these oscillators is that they can be cross-patched with each other. So they have hard sync, and it can be bidirectional hard sync to get you into some really wacky territory with kind of cross-modulation feedback.
And a lot of these things is already pre-patched, right?
So in general, this is a pretty modular workflow. We don't do a whole lot of pre-patching. There's some pre-patching internal to the modules, but we like to think of this as kind of like a curated set of tools that kind of gives the user everything that they need to make some really fat, exciting tones. Yeah, so I'm going to patch this square wave from Lab Oscillator 2 into the wave folder of Laboratory Oscillator 1.
Oh yeah.
And now I have access to all of these timbre controls in harmony with each other. And
It sounds so good.
yeah, it just really takes you to a space that you don't hear anywhere else.
Yeah. Wow, sick. I'm very delighted to hear this. And it's in a really great form factor as well, I'd say. A package full of raw, full body musical tones.
Yeah, it lives in this space of it feels complete. It has everything that I want it to have. And also, it's a size that I managed to fit it on my bike, which is really important to me as a working musician. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of lives in this very playful, very open space, but still manages to be giggable.
And then it has some sort of effect on at the end of the chain here, right? Echoes and what does it say?
Florist.
Florist.
Yeah, so let me just patch something up real quick so I can show these.
Live patching. Super Booth 24.
Yeah, so Florist is kind of a short BBD delay-ish sort of circuit. Very short delay times, which gives you the ability to create these flangers, these choruses, some reverby type sounds. And it all depends on how you modulate this. So the size here, size is the delay time, is completely modulatable.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then you can, yeah, do it.
That's the Florist. We also have our kind of standard BBD delay that we like to do. We've increased the delay time on this one just to kind of give more room for exploration. It pushes the tone a little bit darker, but on this instrument with so many high harmonics happening in the oscillators, that darker timbre to the delay really ends up being quite nice. And all of these will go into both of these will go into self-oscillation. but in a way that kind of like maintains timbral interest. So these can be sound sources as well for Karplus strong style.
Cool. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. There's so many sweet spots in this delay that you can find that are just everything you ever want them to be.
And the echoes is also like fully controllable?
Fully modulatable, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so those are our effects units. There's a host of randomness generators in this sequencer. Some you might not even realize are there. So we have the chance sequencer over here, which is a kind of Turing machine style sort of like evolutionary chance sequencer for generating unquantized voltages. We have a standard sample and hold circuit. We have all the internal randomness to the sequencer with random sequence generation, as well as a random pressure algorithm that kind of seeks to emulate what pressure might do of being very expressive and slow and slewy and hunting. Yeah, so you have just a whole host of generative tools in the synthesizer to explore and really dive deep on.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really happy for you about the release, and also for you to work on your first synthesizer, and it's like this really good one.
It's like been a whole dream, just like being in Berlin. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the walkthrough, and best of luck with the Voltage Labs 2 and with everything else coming out from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, thank you so much.